I was running on spite for the majority of my career. Fuck you. I'm going to prove you wrong. I am worth something. And through my career, I got a lot of that. And then, towards the end of my career, my last few fights, I just, particularly that last one, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do it. It was obviously the drugs or alcohol because, both, because I quit.
Welcome to Geeking Out with Matt Serra. A little hijinks getting this show started today. My bad. I'm going to say what just happened. I got meat hooks for hands, Christians. I really do. The great Chris Leben is with me today. Chris, hey, thanks for your patience, bro. You came, hey, first of all,
me, man. Happy to be here.
You came a long way because the old Chris Leben wouldn't have had you would have been raging, kicking down doors and shit if this was the old Chris Leben with what just happened. I get in the studio, I grab the mic, it comes off like when, what was that superhero movie when he didn't realize he's strong and he's taking the handles off, and that's what I felt like. So Christian's trying to do it. It was like Mission Impossible. He's trying to get the fucking thing going. You're getting in the Zoom. But we're here now. I'm so happy to talk to you, Brute Dude. Thank you for taking the time. Dude, you're a success story. Dude, you made it through. Isn't this great? We made it, Chris.
It's hard to believe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now, and I want to get into your whole story, but right now, I'm going to say, and you could agree with me or not, you are at the best place spiritually, physically, mentally in your life. Is that fair to say?
It's pretty good, like I always tell everybody, I got 8 amazing things and 2 shitty ones. That's kind of the story of my life. But it used to be like 1 amazing thing and 9 shitty ones. So, better and better. We just keep working, putting one foot in front of the other, and stuff just keeps falling into place.
8 great things, but 2 shitty ones. Now, what does that mean? Now, can you elaborate on that little saying there? Is that about there's always going to be that's kind of problems occurring? Kind of a sober thing, It's like life on life's terms, Like the longer I stay sober, the longer I walk this path, the longer I focus on helping others and not myself. The greater my life gets, the more blessings I get. But at the same time, the more responsibility is put on me. The more people depend on me, and the more weight I have to carry in other aspects. So, for example, right now, I've got some stuff going with my mother. Which is, I'm trying to take care of her, make sure she's set up, she's good, she's having a hard time. But that's life, right? And I'm grateful that. I'm in a position now where people trust me and I'm able to do it. The old me, nobody even would have asked for help from, So the new me is kind of nice, to have that extra responsibility, but at the same time, it's still responsibility. I think that's a huge part of the AA. From what I see, like when I see guys that went through like a program and they came through the other side and they had a rough time, no matter whether it's just alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. Jared Gordon comes to mind. Jimmy Norton, my partner on UFC Unfiltered. Guys that have been through that, and then they help other people. Like I just saw, before I got here, I was watching something on you, and you were telling people to telling them to DM you if they have problems, if they're struggling and whatnot.
Absolutely.
And that you'll try to reach back out to them.
Yeah.
Now,
for sure.
I wanted to talk about you. Let's bring it back for a second. Now, where did you grow up exactly?
I grew up in Portland, Oregon.
That's right.
Felony Flats is what they called my neighborhood. Pretty ghetto, real white trash. I grew up in a meth house on the wrong side of the tracks.
Now, what a success story, first of all. Congratulations, bro. I mean, geez, look at you. I'm going to get into what you're doing now, but back then, from a kid to grow up on the wrong side of the tracks, surrounded by, like you just said, white trash, to get to the Ultimate Fighter. Now, the Ultimate Fighter that just had its 20-year reunion. First of all, thank God for that show. For both of us. Me too. I was already, that show did so much for us, you know? You were the original bad boy, dude. The number one. The original on that show where people are tuning in, whether they loved you or hated you. You were being yourself, but you didn't know any other way. You weren't playing it up for camera. That's what's cool. There's some guys that do things nowadays, especially because it's a big social media age and whatnot, for clicks. Back then, it was, I don't even know if there was social media back then, 20 years ago. Not like it is now, for sure. Nothing.
I think maybe MySpace was just
yes.
It was even there yet. Yeah.
It's amazing. That's right, because I remember at the end of that season, the Forrest and Stephan Bonner fights, the people were calling people to tell them to watch it. It's not like it was what do you call it? I was about to say streaming like a tard.
Nobody was posting
yes, nobody was posting about it. They were literally calling people to say, well, check out this fight. So back then, it's not like you were playing to the camera. You were just being yourself, and you were a bit of a character. No? How do you look at yourself back then compared to now as a man? As a you know, how do you look at yourself? Because in fairness, Chris, and I don't want to sound like Robin Williams from Good Will Hunting, but it's not your fault. And then you're going to say, stop fucking with me. And then I'm going to go to hug you and you're going to go to push me. No, look, it's a great movie. Good Will Hunting. But seriously, you weren't brought up the right way. And I'm not attacking your mother or anything or your parents, but you had to learn by yourself. You were a kid, had to learn the world by himself, how to act like a man, how to conduct himself the right way by himself.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, that show did a lot for me in the way that, you know, my mom only had one rule, and it was, you know, you couldn't start drinking till noon. You know, that was kind of our house rule. You know, and so I never realized, you know, in the show that I was doing anything that people weren't doing. I thought what I was doing was totally normal, the way that I was acting. And it wasn't until I was able to go back and watch the show and then, you know, see the other guys, you know, talking, you know, when they're doing their confessions or whatever, and they're just one-on-one with the camera going, you know, it's the biggest opportunity of his life. I don't know what the fuck Chris Leben's doing. He's getting drunk every night, you know what I mean? I didn't know any different, you know, and that show and being able to watch it, take a step back and watch it from the outside really put a lot of things in to perspective for me.
Let me ask you, because you said you were surprised hearing people talk like that because you didn't know any other way. But weren't you training with Team Quest before that? Weren't you with Randy and them? Like did they ever say, Chris, you know, you come in and smelling like booze, like what's going on here? Or is it just because you were having success, you were doing great with the way you were behaving?
All the time, you know, they you know, Robert Falls and stuff, they would say, hey man, you're an athlete now, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I kind of looked at it, you know, I'm 21 years old. You know what I mean? I'm like, Robert, you were probably doing the same thing when you were 21. You know, I'm imagining, you know, they were older. They were a decade older than me.
Yeah.
Randy was, you know, one generation before me. So, you know, and again, I only saw them at training. You know, I saw them every day, but it was training time. You know, and I always got in the gym and I always got to work. You know, regardless of if I smelled like booze or not. You know?
Yeah.
So you know, they sure they gave me shit, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot. But maybe a little more after the show.
Well,
sure.
Well, I guess they seen a lot more. Like you said, they seen you in the gym and you're performing.
Right.
They see
weren't out with me on Saturday night. You know,
yes, so. And basically that show is kind of like hanging out with you on a Saturday night. So they seen that, and then they had to talk with you. During time in the house, that was a new concept. You guys weren't. Did you guys even know you were going to fight on the show, or when they presented it to you? Was it okay? This is exactly what it's going to be. There's going to be events. There's going to be contests, and then they're going to fight. Or did you know you were going to fight when you got on that show?
At first, the plan wasn't we weren't going to fight. We were going to do these stupid competitions. We had like an obstacle course where we had to saw a log in half and do a bunch of stupid stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And then I think it was about episode 4, Dana came out and said, hey, you guys are going to fight each other. So whoever loses the competition or whoever wins gets to pick who they're going to fight. So it was something like that. And I think I was one of the only guys that was actually really excited.
Yeah.
I was like, well, fucking hey, that's what I came here to do. I didn't come here to cut logs in half, So I was really excited about it. There was some pushback from some of the other guys.
Now, this show, for people that don't know, because the UFC is so mainstream now, it wasn't back then. I was already in the UFC back then, and it literally felt like at any day it was going to be over. And I'd be telling my kids, oh, I used to do this thing. They fought in a cage. I thought it was, I wasn't being negative. I was just like, man, the fact that they keep me at the same pay for this, for this fight, that fight, hey, and I knew they were in the hole. So it's like, and I just love to fight. I got into it before there was money into it. You know what I mean? Right, so, yeah. What ended up having, what happened, how this sport blew up for the people that don't know, it's from the Ultimate Fighter. It was the Trojan horse that got it into people's into people's homes on their television sets, and then people ended up getting to know the fighters like yourself, and then that's the late great Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin. Their fight, people tuned in. Next thing you know, this sport's got legs. You know what I mean? And it's getting off. And now look where we're at. Did you have any pressure? Did you realize that being on this show was a big push to try to get it to mainstream? And was there pressure on you for that?
No, I mean, no. There was, we honestly didn't know if it was going to actually air or not when we started filming. And I don't think the UFC did either. They weren't sure they were going to be able to sell the whole thing. They were just rolling the dice with filming it,
Yeah.
And I think Dana will even say, like, we almost ran out their budget just in the food we were eating. They scraped them together. They pulled everything. It was really kind of a last ditch, like this has got to work type deal, and of course it works amazing. It ended up being, far more than anybody could have expected or hoped for.
Now, again, knowing your past, the way you grew up, you get off the show. When did you realize afterwards that the shit's blowing up?
I remember talking to Dana and being like, yeah, man, maybe somebody in Portland will buy me a beer.
Dude, you exceeded your...
bringing that up to me.
Dude,
because I mean, literally, the show aired and I couldn't walk through the mall anymore.
That's what I'm talking about.
It was overnight. All of a sudden, everybody knew who I was,
it's funny, and I remember that because I was already in the UFC, and I'm not saying it's a jealousy thing, but it's more like who the fuck are these guys? We've been here. They're running right past me to go to you and Josh Koscheck. I go, this is some bullshit. I go, come on. So then when they got season 4, the comeback, I go, I'm in. I saw how popular you guys got. But listen, it's not just because of your red hair and your attitude, dude. You could fight. I was, when I get some guys on here, I revisit some of their fights. And first of all, there was 2 I wanted to watch because they're 2 of my favorites. No, listen, I enjoy a lot of your fights, Chris, to be honest. Now I'm thinking I can't just boil it down to 2 because there's a lot coming to me. But shit, man, I'm going to have to bring it up first because Wanderlei Silva. Come on, man. Wanderlei Silva. That is like... It's like fighting a berserker and Tasmanian devil. I mean, that's something where when it was matched up, I go, okay, this one's not making the bell. And I'm not talking about the final bell. I'm the first bell. I think that it was shorter than I thought it would be. But how did that feel when you got the call that you were going to fight Wanderlei Silva? Because I imagine you were familiar with him before you got matched up with him.
Well, what happened was I had been asking to fight Wanderlei for years.
Oh.
And Dana kept telling me no. So you're not fucking fighting, because I wanted to fight Wanderlei because Wanderlei was my hero. When I first started at Team Quest, there was a Japanese toy store in Portland and I could get the bootleg prides. Uh-huh. So I came up watching him and trying to emulate him. And then I had, I fought Akiyama on last minute notice because Wanderlei got hurt. I fought Aaron Simpson, beat him, and then 13 or 14 days later, I fought Akiyama because they, last minute replacement Vandalay got hurt.
Yes.
I ended up beating Akiyama. So I told Dana, I think right in the ring afterward, I was like, listen, Vandalay was supposed to have this fight. I beat this guy. Now you got to put me against Vandalay. And I remember, fast forward a couple weeks, I'm back in Hawaii. I'm driving, and my phone rings. I look, it's Dana White, and I answer it, and he just says, "Hey, be careful what you ask for, kid."
I like that. That sounds like Dana. That's a nice quote. Yeah. You got what you asked for.
And I went, yeah. And he said, you want that fight? You got that fight. And then he hung up the phone. I remember I was shaking so bad I had to pull the car over.
That's great.
It was one of those things where it was like, fuck, be careful what you ask for.
Hey, well, it worked out for you 27 seconds later. I mean, come on, man. You can't ask for better than that. I mean, you going into that fight, what's the nerve? Like, whenever you, and not a lot of people know the feeling before you get into a fight. No matter how prepared you are, it's almost like jumping on a bull. You're not getting out off that thing unscathed. You know what I mean? Something's you're gonna get touched up a little bit somehow. And depending on your dance partner, you know what you're getting ready for. You're about to walk out. You're backstage now. You're about to make the walk. How you feeling for that? The camp was good. The camp was good for it.
The thing with Vandalay, and I think you probably agree with this, is there's guys that you might not have, that you don't stack up against well.
Yes.
They're not scary. Then there's guys like Vandalay where maybe you think you have a chance, but fuck, they're scary. He's just a scary guy to fight,
Yeah, everything from his looks to the thing he does with his the wrist. But when he does that wrist thing before, I feel that should be illegal. That's like voodoo. It's like, what's he doing?
He's not going to, roll for a heel hook and try to finish you quick. You know what I mean? He's trying to hurt you.
And there's certain guys that you have to, there's some guys, they got some quit in them. And there's other guys you gotta either shut their lights off or put them unconscious. And he's one of those guys.
Right.
So you're like, all right, I'm not going to get him to where he had enough. I'm going to have to find the off switch.
Out unscathed.
Yeah, but you did. And you did come out unscathed versus a legend. And it's funny when you say that you looked up to him because you came from Team Quest. Now, when I think of guys that came from Team Quest, I think Randy Couture, Matt Lindland, and then their proteges, guys like Nate Quarry has a similar fighting style and guys like that. I would think that you were brought up by Vandalay Silva the way you fought. You know what I mean? So it's almost like I can see like you want to emulate his style early on.
Yeah.
And then you end up meeting your hero in there.
Yep. Yeah, and it was one of it's probably the only fight I ever had where the game plan actually worked out. What
was the game plan? Hit him before he hits you?
Yeah, Vandalay likes to throw straight hook. He throws that 4-punch, combo. So the game plan was set, make him pull the trigger on that combo and look for that tie clinch. Look for that tie clinch and look to land uppercuts. And at least get there and hold him there for a while and try to slow him down. Weather the storm. That was the plan, was to get to the tie clinch and just try to hang on for the first round.
Man. Well, listen, you caught that chin and you gave some uppercut Hayukins, and next thing you know, the axe murder was down. So, hey, that was so beautiful. I had to bring up that fight. And I was going to bring up the fight that you mentioned right before that. I always call him Sexy Yama. It's not because I have a thing for him. It's just didn't they used to call him that? Sexy Yama?
They did.
Yeah, I'm not making it up. I'm not a weirdo. I'm a weird, but not that weird.
He was like a model or some shit in Japan.
Yeah, a soap opera or some shit. What was he, a model?
That dude's still going. I think
good-looking guy.
Him on, because my fiance's Asian and she's watching this show on Netflix, and it was like 50 something. It's like this athletic challenge.
Yeah.
One of those big ones, and I'm like, oh yeah, I fought that guy, and she's like, fuck you, we all look the same, right? And I'm like, no.
Oh, that's so funny.
And then fast forward, they're doing his interview, and he's talking about how he's a fighter. He's still fighting. It's pretty amazing. He's 50-something years old and still doing it.
He's still fighting? He is?
Still fighting, still in great shape, or at least he was, a year or so ago.
What I enjoyed in that fight is, you could always say, oh, he got a lucky punch, or that punch should have. Dude, your jiu-jitsu looked great in that, man. To get a triangle choke on him. I remember when you got that, I'm like, dude, that's phenomenal. That's better than a knockout for you because it shows them that, all right, he's not just that berserker from the tough house. Look at this. He's on his back rolling into a triangle. I got flashbacks from my Delonte fight.
I remember after the fight, walking backstage, I turned to my coach, Bert Richardson, and I said, what was that, about halfway through the second round? And he's like, what? No, bro, there was like 4 seconds left in the third,
Dude.
And then I went back and watched the fight, and you can see halfway through the second round, he hits me with an uppercut and my knees buckle. My knees wobble. And I think from that point on, I was on autopilot. So I don't remember nothing from about halfway through the second round.
It's funny with that because my first fight with Shoney Carter, I got hit with 2 back fists, and one of them was at the end of the first round. And when I was in the hospital afterwards, my Dr. Sherry, the late, great Dr. Sherry, she was like, I can't believe he caught you with 2 of those. I go, what do you mean 2? He got me at the end of the fight with it. And they're looking at each other like, oh, he's still fucked up.
Yeah.
I didn't remember. I don't remember sitting on the stool between the first and second round. So it is crazy. That was one of the 2 times I got a concussion in there. I probably was concussed from the first one, the first strike. Hey, man, let's talk about struggles now because while you were still having those are back-to-back, actually, even with the Aaron Simpson, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's boom, 3 in a row, dude. You had some great fights, and you were still partying then, yes or no?
Yeah.
So
Vanderlei, I cleaned up my act a little better than other. I think fear.
Yeah.
Fear can be pretty motivating.
Yes. I get that'll make you skip happy hour when you got the axe murderer trying to fight you. Yeah, that's funny. So all right, you cleaned up a little bit for that, but otherwise you're still getting results, right? So it's almost like, why should you clean up your act?
And it's one of those things too where, hindsight, you look back and people always go, God, can you imagine if you were, sober for all those fights? And I go, yeah, but why? Why imagine it? Who knows? Could have been way better. Could have been worse. Maybe it had something to do with, not caring the way that I fought, I just I didn't really care. And I didn't take anything to, like, I was serious, but, I was just going out and fighting to the death. And that was, and I wonder, if being sober would have made that better, or the stress and nerves would have made me try to be too calculated. How do you tell?
But what's wild is that, and I heard you talk about this because you've always had that Bushido, that warrior spirit. And then, and I was surprised when it happened, and every fight is its own separate thing in itself. It's not like the fight before or the fight before that. Everything is its own, not only physically, but especially mentally. Every fight is unique. And when you fought Uriah Hall, it killed you not to answer the bell, I believe, in the 3rd round. Is that what? And now, could you just, I hate to relive bad shit, but we got through it, and the story ends up very happy for you. So I just want to relive some of this shit because you got past this.
That was the last fight in my UFC career. I had lost a lot of the fire. I was in a shitty relationship. I was battling with drugs and alcohol. My life outside of the gym and outside of the cage was absolutely in shambles. And I just didn't care. It was a different kind of didn't care. Where when I first got to the UFC, yeah, sure, I was partying and stuff. I didn't care. I didn't care if I lived or died. I just wanted people to remember my name.
Yeah.
I was just a kid that everybody expected to amount to nothing. So it was I was running on spite for the majority of my career. Fuck you. I'm going to prove you wrong. I am worth something, and through my career, I got a lot of that. And then, towards the end of my career, my last few fights, I just, particularly that last one, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do it. And it was, I tell the other part of the story, it was obviously the drugs or alcohol because, both, because I quit.
Yeah.
And for me, being the guy that was going to go out there and die, to look back, it was extremely haunting. It was very depressing,
Yeah.
So then, after that fight, Dana called me and basically said, "Hey, I think you should probably retire." And I was like, "Yeah. After that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not doing that fucking again."
Now, there's a reason I brought that up, because that could have been it for you. That could have been, all right. You think about your career in a whole, and you're like, oh yeah, no, he had some great fights, and oh yeah, that's kind of sad at the end. That I hate to see him like that. But you were not done, Warrior. You were not done, Chris Leben. So, dude, come on, man. I love a good comeback story. You went through some shit. Now, after this, you were married and you got divorced before this or after this?
Right, shortly after.
Oh boy. Now,
shortly after. Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a ride or die to me, but I don't know. I'm not getting involved. But listen, sometimes you don't got the right.
Money stopped coming in. And
hey, man. Hey, because
peace. I'm out of here.
This is crazy because it all leads to where you're at now, which is in such a good place. So it's wild, man. Here you are. You're in your 30s. You got out of the UFC. The marriage is over. I assume you're still drinking.
Yeah.
So when did you just say enough of this shit? What was the final straw?
Well, I got thrown in jail for a while.
That might do something to you. You know what I mean? It's all right.
People that say jail don't work, that's full of shit. Go to jail for a while. Go to jail for a while and you realize, at least for me, I was like, you know what? I don't belong here.
Dude, now fighting, drinking, what was it for?
I was that guy. I had a felony firearms possession.
Okay.
So California, they frown on that.
They don't like that too much.
They don't like that, I also had a couple DUIs under my belt now at this point.
Okay.
Fighting, drunken in public, and all of a sudden you get in your 30s, it's not cool anymore.
It's not cool.
You go to jail a couple times and you go, and I was like, fuck, is this, this sucks. Is this it? And pretty soon nobody wanted to, my phone stopped ringing, my friends that used to want to go out and party with me because I was a crippler and it was wild. They didn't want to call me. They were too scared to hang out with me, and not to mention I didn't have all that money I used to have. So I wasn't buying bottle service and rounds for everybody.
Yeah. Real friends, right?
I remember laying on my fucking couch, drinking by myself and being like, fuck, this sucks, and that's when I decided, I'm gonna quit drinking. This is not fun anymore. So, that's when I found a Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in San Diego, and then it was, I did that. I tried that on my own for a while. It was hard. I got a sponsor, right? My sponsor, Tommy, who's now one of my best friends, cornered me for my last fight. He's, and then I put some real effort into it. And next thing I know, I got a job at a gym.
How old were you? How old were you then?
Oh, this was, I guess, a couple years after. Couple years after I got out of the UFC, maybe like 5 years after I got out of the UFC. It took me a second to really hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
So after I retired, I had another year or two of just everything just getting worse. Getting a job, I got a job at a gym. I ended up getting fired for showing up drunk. I got another job at a gym. Pretty soon the gyms didn't even want to hire me.
Yeah.
And so yeah. So it was, so then once I got sober and I found a gym that would hire me, and I was working there, I was, actually, next thing I know, I was beating the shit out of all the 20-year-olds again, and I was enjoying it.
Yeah. How old were you then? 38?
39? Let's go 34. Maybe
oh, you were still young. I'm sorry. Wait, that's when you were 34? 35?
Yeah, 35, something like that, right? And yeah. So I tried to, I was like, fuck, I want to fight again, you know? And I signed a contract with Bellator. But then I failed my medicals. Apparently my heart was all fucked up, you know?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but apparently, you know, alcohol and other things are not good, you know, with excessive. I was burning the candle from both ends for so long.
Yeah.
You know, the old ticker wasn't doing great. So, you know, I just continued to you know, continue to train away, you know. And every 6 months I go back to my cardiologist and be like, oh wow, look, you know, your heart's getting better. It's
That's
getting
awesome.
better. It's up 5%. It's up 10% every time they check my ejection fraction. And then you know, he said, I went back and he's like, yeah, you're by the way, the body is pretty amazing. It's not what you put in the body, but more or less what you take out. So just by taking that stuff out, changing my lifestyle, cutting out drinking, just training, changing the way I eat, changing who I hung out with, my heart went from terrible all the way back up to the same as, you know, any 35-year-old guy, 30, whatever I was, 36, 37, terrible with remembering ages.
Yeah.
But right about the time they said my heart was back to normal is about when I got that call from BKFC.
Yes. And talk about a sport to come along that you're made for. I'll tell you right now, you and Mike Perry, that's your sport right there. When you first seen that, the bare knuckle fighting, were you intrigued?
I told him no, because they had BKFC 1. I think they had one show, and they wanted me on the second show. You know, I told them no, but then I went home and I said, well, fuck, I'm going to YouTube this shit, see what this is all about. I pulled it up on YouTube and I went, well, fuck, bro, if there was ever a sport made for me, like this is it, you know? So, long story short, I ended up, I was going to fight for them. I made the mistake of fighting for a different organization that offered me a whole bunch more money. That's the one that my first bare knuckle fight was actually not in the BKFC. It was a different show. I fought Phil Baroni.
I remember that. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Man, you're doing way better than him right now. I'll tell you. Hey, Chris, you made some right decisions. Talk about a guy that didn't make right decisions. But go ahead. Now I'll tell you right now, he actually quit in that fight. He was weird in that fight. He was like trying to take you down. What was going on there?
Yeah, so, you know, I thought, and I guess maybe I was giving him too much credit. I thought he was trying to like fake a takedown so I dropped my hands and he could hit me or something. But he actually, I talked to him later. I caught him. It almost looks like a glancing blow, but right on the initial exchange.
Yeah.
I caught him, and he was wobbly from that point on. So he was doing some weird stuff because he was dancing, already rocked.
On ice skates,
trying to hang on. And then, you know, it wasn't, you know, another 20, 30 seconds. They broke us, and when we came back, I was able to catch him the next time as he was trying to work in. Caught him with a left. And
now putting his lights out, the bare knuckle. Did you feel some redemption after the last time you stepped into a fight where you weren't yourself? Now, did you feel like the best version of yourself?
Great.
You had to feel great.
I felt really great. You know, I had my crew there, all the guys that have been supporting me through my journey. You know, we're in my corner. You know, and to get that win in, you know, in old school Chris Leben fashion, you know, just kind of like showing the world, you know, showing me, not necessarily the world, but more me that you know who I am, that I'm the guy that'll go out there and you know fight to the death as opposed to, you know, the guy that quits on the stool.
I'll tell you, I know the feeling. I know the feeling. Like when I lost the title, same thing. Like I felt like shit, man. I could have got up. I know I could have. So you question. What you don't want to question as a fighter is your heart, or be like, fuck, man. Did I quit? Did I fucking quit? I could. That's not me. And you don't. And you feel that until you get back in there and do like what you just did. I got back in there at 35. I knocked out Frank Trigg. I always like to throw that in. Yep. I like to take shots at that motherfucker. No, I like it. But you feel like
Trigg,
you.
I'll see Trigg next weekend. I think I might be working with him tonight. We'll see. He's a rep out here in California as well.
I'm gonna have him on my show. Tell him I want him on my show.
I'll let him know.
You know, how is he now? Is he doing some sit-ups now? He's getting a little chubby, Chris. You got to talk to him. He's getting a little.
Going like this, and then he was going like this.
Yeah. Because when I used to run, you know what happened? You know what happened? We had a little something before a fight, but it was more funny. But he's kind of like I seen him after my fight, and that's when I used to be chubby, Chris. I lost like 50 pounds. I was up to 230. I was like, you seen me around. I don't know if you remember seeing.
I don't know if chubby's the word, dude. You were.
Oh, God, you would say it now. I'm sitting now. I'll show you my abs. I was up there. It was embarrassing. I was piggy. I was a little fatty. And, he used to take, I heard him taking shots at me. And when you're fat, you don't want to. When you're fat and when you're skinny and people say you used to be fat, it's no big deal. But when you're actually fat and people call you fat, you're just sitting there like, oh, you son of a bitch. You get mad. So
there's nothing you can do.
I love, some sit-ups. I don't love it, but now he's a fatty. So I like to just poke him in his little belly. Anyway, Chris, let's get to your last fight, because you know what it is, and you do know what it is. When you win,
one thing I want to put in there,
please.
I had 4 bare knuckle fights, and it wasn't the Phil Baroni one. Like coming back and winning was great, but out of the 4, it was the fight, the fight that I lost. God, why am I going to forget that kid's name?
English kid?
No,
I'm way off.
He was the gay porn star.
Wait a second.
Talking about.
Hold on a second. Are you telling me you?
And he was
a gay porn star.
Shit, let me tell you.
Oh shit, man! And know what's bad about that? You'd be afraid.
Right there. Why am I forgetting his name?
You might be afraid to use your jujitsu on him then too. So it's scary if it ever got into a real. Not fucking around. But
Dakota Cochran. That guy.
Cochran?
I mean, Dakota Cochran. Yeah, he hit.
I'm sorry. Is his name Mr. Cochran? Cochran.
Cochran, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. The porn thing got me off with that. Didn't get me off. You know what I mean.
The same show when I fought my first fight, he fought Johnny Hendricks and just exploded Johnny Hendricks.
Yes, yeah. And that's after USADA. Johnny Hendricks was maybe not himself.
Yeah.
Poor Johnny Hendricks. That's not fucking good old horse meat. I don't know what's going on with Johnny Hendricks. And I don't know what's going on with Mr. Cochran. But listen, all I know is you threw me off once you threw in gay porn star. I was with you, Chris.
I feel bad to even bring that up.
No, listen, you got to make a buck. You got to make a living.
Hey, I'm not. Listen, the guy was a tough as hell fighter. That's for sure. He broke my orbital, first punch of the fight.
That sucks.
I had like 30 stitches here, like 20 here. They had to stitch my nose back on.
God damn.
Yeah, the bare knuckle. We went.
That's your favorite. That's your favorite fight.
Yeah.
Now, now tell me why.
Because a lot of people would have quit in the first round.
There we go. That's the answer I'm looking for.
After their face exploded. But to have one eye swollen shut, be choking on blood, and fight the next 4 rounds, and I didn't get the win, but that let me, that's the fighter that Chris Leben is.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's who I am.
That's what I'm talking about, and to be able to have that redemption at that age, not that it's old, but I forget that you were in the tough house at 23, right? What were you, 22? 23?
22, 23.
Yeah, you were a young kid, man. You know what? It's funny, man. You grew up before people's eyes, and a lot of times it's not a success story. You left, and what I was about to say was, it gets addicting. It's hard to walk away from the sport, especially after a win. And you did that. You had your final fight, and it was in the BKFC, right?
Yep.
And you went out on a win. I mean, how were you able to do that? Because that's not easy.
It's not. But you see guys and it's unfortunate because we've both seen they identify that their whole existence is being a fighter.
Yes.
And they just can't seem to move on. And I realized, what, I was 40 years old when I had my last fight.
Yeah.
And I realized at this point, I'm not getting any faster. I'm not, are there still some people I could beat? Probably.
Yeah.
Probably, but why? It's time to recenter my focus on what my future is gonna be about. Not fighting is it's done. I need to put it behind me. I need to put on a different hat. I need to move on. And part of that for me was could I have made some more quick money? For sure. But growing up and focusing on the road ahead.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had some other things going on. I was trying to open up a gym in San Diego. My refereeing and judging career was starting to take off. I wanted to go professional as a referee and judge. And when you're fighting, that's all you're doing.
Yeah. But you built
we try to act like we can do all these things as fighters because we have a tendency to overextend ourselves. I think it's just personality. But if you're fighting at your best, if you're doing it like you're supposed to, that's all you're doing. You barely have time for your family.
So now, speaking of family, you got remarried, correct?
I'm engaged.
Oh, you're engaged. So you're on your way there.
Engaged.
Yes.
I'm on my way there. Yeah.
Now, I've seen some of your Instagram. Doesn't it make this is the most important decision? I'm talking to the camera now. To people, people are gonna make in their life. Who you choose for your spouse. Who you choose for your ride and die. I just had my 18-year wedding anniversary with my wife, Ann, and I got very lucky with her. Right, Christian? Yes. Christian's wife met her once. She loves her. The lady behind 7-Eleven comes. She got a line of people. She comes out to see my friend. Oh, my friend, see my wife. Anyway, I could talk about my wife for a whole episode. I could tell that you are in such a good place right now, dude. And that makes me so happy. You met your wife, you met your fiance, and it's funny how they could just help lift you up in life.
I learned because I have dated all the wrong girls.
Yes, I'm there with you, pal.
I had plenty of time to be out there and experiment, and I've come down to one conclusion. If I can give anybody advice on relationships, which I'm no expert at, but just make sure whoever you pick, they're the sweetest person in the world.
Right.
The sweetest, nicest person. And that my fiance, that's the thing. She's just the kindest,
it's nice,
sweetest person. So I always find myself, because I'm a little abrasive,
yeah, me too.
Sometimes I hurt her feelings. I don't realize what I'm saying, what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah.
But that's the most, everything else you can work through. You can work through any other difference as long as she's sweet, caring, compassionate. I think that's the number one quality in my book.
Do you have that gym in San Diego now? Or are you working?
I do, yeah.
I want to give that a plug. Let's talk about that real quick. Now, where is it? What's it called? And is it your gym? Are you there teaching out of it?
It's my gym. It's my gym. I'm there every day.
Awesome.
I literally was on the mats right before I came up here to LA for this show. So
is it for all walks of life, or is it just fighters? All walks of life. What does your gym consist of?
Life.
Beautiful.
Far more. I have a small fight team. You know what I mean? Because that's my passion.
Of course.
But as you know, fighters don't pay the bills.
I'm with you on that.
So,
no.
We have Barrett Yoshida is our jiu-jitsu instructor.
Oh my goodness. Oh well, that is phenomenal. I was in Abu Dhabi with him back in the day. That's old school. That's a bit. He has some rapid fire jiu-jitsu. Barrett Yoshida is awesome. That is great.
Incredible.
Yeah, give him my regards, please. Yeah.
I will. I just got off the mat with him, and I tell people he's just turned 50.
That's it.
He'll still roll for 2 hours straight, going with every guy in the class.
Beautiful.
It's absolutely and choking everybody out. If you look at his Instagram, that's all it is. is right now, like,
I love it.
He always gets these little random kicks. Right now, his kick is hitting baseballs and choking people
It's
out.
so funny, man. I've been teaching that lately a lot, man. Take down knee on belly right to that baseball bat choke. There's something about, there's some things that will never go out of style. Some things might get renamed or this or that, but there's only so many ways to put somebody to sleep or take their arm. And that baseball bat choke will never. I've got it. One of my brown belts, Zico, gets that. Guys get on top of him. He still holds on to it. They're sleeping on top of him. It's fucking great. You are now, and you're also, and I love seeing this when you're at a UFC. You're also an MMA judge, a professional MMA judge. And you went through the routes with that, where you had the shadow referees. You took Herb Dean's referee course, correct?
Yes.
I mean, you know, when people look at success, there's certain ways people look at it. Oh, that guy got out of the UFC. Look at Conor McGregor. He has a yacht. I don't look at it like that at all. I don't think money is a sign of happiness. I'm not saying about him. He looks pretty happy. But my point is, I'm a big believer in your quality day of life, everyday way of life, and how you living that every day. Are you enjoying, do you enjoy going to work? Do you enjoy time with your family? You're a success story.
I got Subversive coming up here in about, as soon as I'm off the phone with you, I'm going to go check into the venue. So we got combat jiu-jitsu tonight.
Oh, I like that. Keeps it honest.
Tomorrow night.
It keeps it honest. Hey, Chris, nowadays, the number one thing missing in current modern jiu-jitsu is distance management. And that will make you manage the distance when you're looking for your inverted X guard and start getting smacked in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's good. It keeps you honest, you know?
It does.
All right, look, hey, I'm going to have to wrap up. I know you got stuff going on. I usually go over our origin story when I have somebody on, but I believe this is our origin story, Chris. We ran into each other in the past here and there, but we never really had a long conversation besides a hi and bye or maybe a fist bump. Am I correct with that?
Yeah, just seeing you at fights and,
we were always cool, but there was never this. Let's have this happen again. All right. Hey, and really, man, dude, I'm happy for you, man. I watched your whole journey, and you're a success, dude. You're a success in life, man. You redeemed yourself. I was very sad when I saw that Uriah Hall fight, and when I seen what happened, it's after. Not only forget about the fighting, it led to that. How you cleaned up your life, and that led to you walking out of that combat sports with your hand raised. You got a beautiful fiance. You got a school. You're a professional referee. Chris Leben. The name of your school, really quick.
The training center.
And it's in Hawaii.
We're in San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. What the fuck am I saying? I said Hawaii.
Yeah.
Barry Yoshida's from Hawaii. That's why. I'm not that shot. Go ahead. San Diego.
San Diego. Yep. www.trainingcentersd.com. Obviously on Instagram. I'm always posting on my Instagram. So.
And that's what's your Instagram? I follow you, but I want you to say it.
Chris Leben MMA.
Easy enough. Hey, dude, I'm glad we made this happen, brother. Thank you so much, Warrior. And I'm very happy for you, dude.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Take care, Chris. The great Chris Leben.
All right.
Take care, brother. That was fantastic, Christian. They can't hear you. No. But I'm going to just talk to you because I'm going to sign off now, okay? Christian, we're out of here. I had a blast catching up with him. Wasn't that great? They're not going to hear you. You give me a thumbs up. Hey, everybody, I got to get out of here. Stay humble yet dangerous. Chris Leben, I'm so happy for him.